Tourism. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Bangby, and today the business that I chose to talk about is a popular fashion retailer that I'm sure we all may have heard about. It is Forever 21. The reason I chose this business is because it is a perfect example of what global economy looks like today. This brand has shaped the US shopping culture for years and has been around in many malls around the community until recently. Forever 21's history has shown how global economic concepts such as globalization, trade agreements, and supply chain disruptions can shape the products we buy and how a business can continue to stay in the market. Forever 21 was initially founded in 1984 and has been growing its business ever since through globalization. Now, what is globalization? Well, this is the process of increasing global interconnection and interdependence across economics, social, cultural, and political spheres. The company has used international suppliers, global distribution networks, and overseas labor to keep production and selling prices low, while also keeping up with the latest fashion trends quickly. So, Forever 21 designed in the US, manufactured overseas, and sold in the US. Now, this process allowed for Forever 21 to sell jeans and dresses for as low as $10. But as the year went by, globalization also created more competition as other fast fashion retailers such as Shein, Zara, and H&M were using the same strategies but at a quicker pace. And this caused Forever 21 to struggle in the long run as they could not adapt to the fashion race quick. The company depended highly on international trade agreements as most of their products were imported from Asian countries, specifically China. Now, what is trade agreement? Trade agreement is defined as a formal legally binding pact between two or more countries to reduce or eliminate barriers to trade such as tariffs and quotas. Now, this affected how much they paid for inventory and how much the clothes would sell for in retail shops. Lower tariffs and trade deals helped the company keep clothing prices cheap for U.S. customers. However, once the U.S. trade tensions with China increased, raised the cost of importing clothes from China to the U.S. Now, this made it harder for Forever 21 to continue selling low price clothing, so the clothing prices were slightly increased to keep up with the economy. This shows how trade policies can not only affect the business but also the consumer as well. Next, we have global supply chain. Global supply chain is the interconnected network of organizations, people, and activities involved in the entire process of creating a product or a service. Now, Forever 21 relied heavily on shipment from factories such as in China, Vietnam, and Bangladesh, which helped them lead in the cheap and fast fashion that was trending. However, COVID 19 had a major impact for the company, and not only did COVID 19 impact the company, it kind of put the world on pause. The pandemic had caused shipping delays, shortages on materials, and rising labor costs that slowed down production and deliveries. And due to this, many Forever 21 stores were left with less inventory to sell and a higher price were placed on the product. This, however, benefited companies like Shein as they were able to adapt more quickly, kind of leaving Forever 21 at the bottom end of the stick. Now, before we get into the examples and evidence, how do these all concepts connect? Well, we know globalization made it possible for the company to have clothes designed in the US, manufactured overseas at a lower cost, and then sold in the US at an affordable price for consumers. And the trade agreements made it easier for Forever 21 to have those clothing made and shipped through borders at a relatively cheap price, but that became difficult once trade tensions and import costs increased. And finally, when the supply chain was disrupted with events like COVID and import cost increase, this had Forever 21 struggling to keep up with the market and bankruptcy ended up being the result. Now, one of the evidence is in 2019, Forever 21 had filed for bankruptcy, and part of the reason being that it could no longer keep up with the rising supply chain costs and the global competitors. COVID-19 also had the impact because it had disrupted factory productions, global shipping, and mall shopping was affected within the businesses. And not only that, trade tensions and tariffs between the US and China began in 2018 and has been ongoing ever since, even now in 2025. This has increased the price of important goods, which has squeezed the profit margins for the companies. Now, in 2025, we as a community locally felt the impact when Forever 21 announced closing its locations, especially the ones in malls such as Cumberland Mall, Lenox Mall, and the Mall of Stonecrest. Now, finally, how can this relate to me? Well, after completing this project, I believe that it has taught me and helped me how to visualize global local connections, and I have realized that businesses such as Forever 21 are more than just about fashion trends. It is also about how global economics can shape what is available in our stores and the amount that we pay for it. And as someone who is interested in starting up their own business eventually, this has shown me the importance of paying attention to international policies and global networks because they don't only affect pricing and competition, but also the success of the business, both big and small. And thank you guys for listening to my presentation.